My legs are stiff. I did a 26k long run yesterday, but we are back. It is Monday morning and this is another week in the life of a guy who is creating content full time whilst training for the Honolulu Marathon. Like I said, it's Monday morning. Got a pretty cool day lined up today. We are doing a shoot with Kaif. Going to be working with SOAR Running, which is sick. They reached out and asked if we wanted to do any content around their new AW24 range that's coming out soon. They've got some nice bits of clobber that they're releasing. So I'm a big fan of the brand, big fan of the product, so it was a no-brainer. Got Kaif involved. He is the videographer that I work with on various different projects, proper top bloke and really talented behind the camera. And I think with SOAR being a really premium running brand, it makes sense to get some like premium quality visuals. I don't want to be just filming myself on a little action cam. You're pretty limited in what you can do when you're shooting by yourself, so getting a videographer on board where it's right is always the move for me. We'll have this minging porridge, go and pick up Kaif, and then we'll get ourselves to the Peak District and I'll show you a little bit about his setup and that when we're there.
I'm not even in the... Still got me, what the hell?
Like a 10mm or a 12mm, I think.
I saw they do a 10mm autofocus one now, but it's 800 quid.
That's crazy.
Is that your warm-up? What rig are you on today?
So I'm shooting with the FX3 Sony, of course.
Yeah, nice.
Obviously we're going to be shooting more in a vertical setup. I'm going to be putting it on a gimbal as well.
Yeah, nice.
Obviously we're trying to get some really good stable shots of running.
So maybe is that the Rode mic that I've got as well?
Yeah.
Rode mic Go 2 or something?
Exactly that, yeah. Just get some clean like audio, obviously, of the floor, the leaves.
We've got a nice day for it. It's proper autumnal, isn't it?
Proper nice colours.
We've got the e-bike. I am going to set the Brompton up and we are going to ride to the first location. Right, we're done for the day now. We're going to head back and have a proper look at the footage and get stuck in with the edit now. Drop Kaif off, picked up some food. Not the healthiest meal to start the week, but I am starving. It's 2:30, been out shooting all morning. Not had anything since that bowl of porridge, so this is what it is. Anyone interested? I got a 3 select meal and a plain double cheeseburger. Pretty much my go-to from McDonald's.
Oh, mate, some of this footage is just fucking prime time, man. Still get excited to come home, get the footage onto the laptop, sift through it and colour grade it and stuff like that. I hope I never lose that joy. We ended up with 50 gigs worth of footage. Obviously that's slightly overkill for an Instagram reel, but you're always better off having more than not enough. And we ended up with a massive variety in the type of shots we got, from like wide establishing shots of the environment to close-up product shots, tracking shots, slow-mo, yada yada yada. Now the challenge we've got is to use all of this beautiful footage we've got today and turn it into an Instagram reel. The brief from SOAR is pretty top line. It's basically to showcase their autumn winter 24 collection. Funny how different brands operate. Some brands are really strict and offer loads of guidance in that with their briefs. Some brands just let you kind of do what you want, and on this occasion we sort of got full creative freedom to do what we want as long as we make the clobber look decent. It's now 10 o'clock in the evening. I have got the first draft of the edit into a decent place, done the voiceover, got the music, done all the editing together, colour grading, etc. And this is what it's looking like.
Running. There's nothing quite like it. I find myself 5 weeks out from Honolulu Marathon. My training has started to ramp up just as the weather has begun to plummet, but a bit of wind and rain won't deter me from training. In actual fact, I find running out in the elements extremely therapeutic, especially in a place like this. The gentle rustling of the leaves underfoot, distant calls from the birds, the tranquility and the calmness out here is a welcomed escape from the noise of day-to-day life. We've a long winter ahead, but brick by brick, session by session, I find myself pushing ever closer to that illustrious marathon finishing line.
Something a little bit different for me. I'll send that over to SOAR in the morning and get their thoughts, see what they think, if they're happy with it or not. I just find running content at the minute, man, it's so dry. It's obviously so saturated that it's just got to the point where it's just rinse and repeat. I see the same thing on my feed every single day.
Okay. Are you alright? You okay? How are you doing, eh?
Good man, steady.
Ready?
how do you know how much to charge when it comes to working with brands and agencies on content and partnerships, etc.? So I have worked for 7 years in agency side. I worked at a media agency, and prior to doing what I'm doing now, worked at a creative agency. And obviously I've worked creative side doing what I'm doing right now. So I have a decent understanding as to how the value of creative partnerships, etc. is determined. So seemingly what the most important metric is to brands and agencies when it comes to determining the fee that they will be happy to pay for a creator is a cost per view, or a CPV. It's a pretty important metric in advertising, and it'll allow brands to work out a fee for a creator based on the creator's sort of average views or the performance of their reels, for example. So typical like industry standard influencer marketing CPV is anywhere from like 4p to 8p. Might have changed, correct me if I'm wrong. But what you can do is use them figures to then work out how much you should technically be charging a brand based off of your average views. So for example, if I have an Instagram account that is averaging 10,000 views per reel and I want to use a middle of the road CPV of 6p, for example, that says you can charge around £600 per Instagram reel that you do for a brand. Where I have a slight issue with this benchmarking system is it doesn't take into account millions of other variables, such as the production value of your reel. Is it a 5-second reel? Is it a 1-minute reel where it requires a lot more graph? For me, doing content with like a decent camera and the production value is better than that of just a phone, for example, I'll always try and push the top end of what I can charge. Over the years, I've got a better understanding as to what brands will pay and what they won't pay. I've got a better understanding as to the minimum that I will work for based on the amount of graph that I know it'll take. And again, there's a million different variables. Are you willing to compromise on your fee to work with your dream brand? Are you willing to compromise on your fee to obtain longer term partnerships for that security? I know I am. For example, say my one-off fee for a reel is £2,000. I'm willing to come down on that if it means I can secure a 12-month partnership with a brand that I want to work with. The size of the brand you're working with will obviously affect the fee. Big brands probably have big budgets, little brands probably have less budget. Cora. Brief itself, does the brief require bare graph to get it done? Paid usage, do the brand want to boost the content that you've created via paid ads? Exclusivity, are you not able to work with other brands at the expense of working with this brand? That should also come at an extra fee. It's a tough one because you obviously on paper should be charging for all this stuff, but in reality the budget sometimes just don't stretch that high. Look at the state of this, man. So my dad has converted my old mountain bike into an e-bike. He bought one of them conversion kits and did it himself. Looks pretty smart, to be honest. He said it can get up to about 40 miles an hour, I think he said. So it's Tuesday midday, if you haven't already guessed. I'm at my parents' house today. I'm working from here, dog sitting basically, because Cora is on her own for the first time in a long time. We sadly lost our dog the other day, so I'm coming around to keep her company. I'm gonna go on a little bike ride. I have bought my cross bike. We've got Muddy Hell on Sunday, so I need to go out and get familiar with that bike before I do my first cross race. Main priorities for me this week in terms of admin are renewing some partnerships. Basically, I have a partnership with Rapha. They're my kit sponsor. They are coming to an end at the end of this year. My Garmin contract is finished. We are in talks about renewing that one, and that is one I really want to get on board for the next year. They are such a good partner to have, especially as a cyclist and the runner. Their like products, ecosystem, etc. is just quality. This is the Rysel RCX II. This is Van Rysel's cross bike. I've only taken it out for one ride, but it was really fun, just ripping it about in the mud. I'm going to do about 30k today on some muddy, gravelly trails. It's got 33mm knobbly Vittoria tyres. They're really kind of like grippy for mud. That's what they're designed for. It's got SOAR Apex 1x. It is an electronical group set. I assume it's kind of like SOAR's gravelly one. It's got fulcrum aluminium wheels, carbon frame and carbon fork, and yeah, it's just really good fun to rip about on. This is the mid-range RCX. It weighs about 8.7 kg. They also have a more entry-level one and then a higher spec one as well. This stuff really saps your legs when it's muddy. Muddy Hell is going to be an extremely humbling day for me. I'm expecting it to be as humbling as when I tried crit racing. That was one of the hardest days I've ever had on the bike. And I'm imagining this is going to be equally as difficult. Mate, I am a mess. Nearly 40 kilometres done. We are a disgrace. I don't think they're going to let me back in the house at this rate.
Let's get the hose out and get this bike cleaned up because it's got to come back to mine in my car, so I don't fancy putting it in this current state. When we were out in Girona for the week, we were living off this beige pasta bolognese dish that we kept buying from Spar. It was super stodgy. It reminded me a bit of Pasta King, you know, from like school lunches and that at secondary school. Super simple food, but I love that sort of stuff. So today, I've just been to Lidl, I'm gonna recreate it. We've picked up some lean minced beef. We've got our pasta, and I have sourced the beigest tomato sauce in the world. Let's get to business. Oh, look at that, man. Gordon Ramsay, eat your heart out, fella. 8:30 on Tuesday morning, I have had to go and grab myself a brew from the local cafe gaff because we are out of coffee in this flat. What a shambles. I was going to film it, but I remembered I despise filming in public, especially when I'm not on the bike or running. Just mulling about with a camera filming myself, I can't do it. I don't think I'll ever get comfortable with doing it. I don't know why. Which is ironic because you might watch these videos on my Instagram and that and think that I'm dead comfortable with being filmed and filming myself, etc. I am not. I am definitely a lot more comfortable than I was when I first started out, but I still like, yeah, just it gives me the shivers, mate. Just people watching me film myself from a distance, just like the thought of it just irks me out. On the topic of filming and that, I thought I would go through my camera gear, all the equipment and that I use to make these videos, my Instagram videos and stuff like that, because it's a question that I get asked literally every single day. I have a lot of shit. I have a lot of camera equipment that I have collated over the years. Before I even started doing any of this video content stuff, I was actually mad into photography, so I already had a really good camera, which was very helpful when I got into the video stuff. But the main equipment that I'm using, I won't go through every single bit, I'll go through like the main ones that are useful and that I do use. So this camera that I'm recording on now, this is the Sony ZV-E1. This is a full frame mirrorless camera from Sony, absolutely staggeringly good bit of kit. I picked this one up quite recently. Prior to that I had the Sony A7 III, which was an absolute workhorse of a camera, but not as sophisticated when it comes to video as this thing. Accompanying the camera, I have a ton of different lenses that I've collated as well, through from like ultra wides that I'm filming on now through to 135mm, which is like a zoom lens. These just offer different perspectives when I'm filming various different things. Oh, I'm much better looking on these 50mm. I should use these instead of that ugly ultra wide one. The main workhorse that I'm using for the most part is the Sigma 28 to 70mm 2.8. This is a very versatile lens because it's got the sort of wider perspective of 28 through to a more zoomed in perspective of 70, 20mm, 50mm, and then I also have these like vintage glass which I picked up. These are so cheap as well and pretty good for video. The only downside is you have to do manual focus. In terms of other cameras, I have two of these like vintage dad cams. These are just handy cams from like the early 2000s, I think, Panasonics. On the bike and running, I have a couple of different action cameras. I've got the Insta360 X4. This thing is such a unique camera. I have this Insta360 One RS. Then I have the DJI Action 4. Now this is my favorite of the action cams just because it's probably the most versatile and the image quality is the best. The sensor size in this is bigger than the other two action cams that I mentioned, so the image quality is better. In terms of mics, I have quite a few of these as well, mainly the DJI mic, the original one, and then the DJI mic 2. I think audio is one of them things that is super underrated when it comes to social media video, because you could have the nicest visuals in the world, but if the audio is shite, the video is instantly shite as well. Training wise today, I'm going to do an hour on the indoor trainer on Rouvy. I am trying to keep in shape on the bike because we are off to Mallorca for a couple of days to do some big rides mid-November. Later on in the day, I've got my running interval session, so let's get cracking on this indoor session. The Rouvy actually took me to the Vuelta this year. We got to go and experience the first stage, which was in Lisbon. It was a 12k time trial. I actually got to do the time trial myself, which was amazing. Since Zwift hiked up the prices, I've been using Rouvy as my indoor training software. Really good, does very similar things. You just get to actually experience real life routes on it, which is very nice. Once we were out there in Lisbon, we got to go and see how Rouvy actually film these routes. Quite cool. They rig up a car with all the GoPros and stuff and then go and virtually render it, and then it ends up in the software for you to ride. I'm not paid by them, but they did give me a code that gives you a 3-month trial on the Rouvy app.
you want to check it out this winter, just code Dan when you sign up, should give you a free month. Do everything you can do on Zwift. You can race, you can ride casually, sessions, intervals, yada, yada, yada. So out in here. Right, we're done. 30 kilometers in the bag. I'm gonna go and get some lunch and then I'm gonna think about heading out on my run. At the time of recording, we are now 5 weeks away from Honolulu Marathon. I'm starting to feel fairly fit in terms of my running. Not the fittest I've ever been, but we are now building in the next few weeks up to peak week and then obviously coming down to a bit of a taper. Like the complete opposite of cycling, the shitter the weather gets, the more I enjoy the running. Whoa, 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 hold your horses. We have just had an unbelievably positive email from a brand that we worked with a couple of weeks back. They said they really, really like the content and they want to explore the possibility of an ambassadorship in 2025, which is sick because I was going to propose something to them in the coming weeks, but they have just emailed out the blue. Oh God, I love this shit. This is what gets me excited to be doing what I'm doing. You never know what opportunities are going to be presented to you, and this is one I am going to pounce all over, man. It's mad. You start off with an account that's got no followers, you don't know how to do video, and then you dedicate yourself to it for 2 years and you end up with opportunities like this. It's just, you get out of it what you put in. As simple as that, really. Put in the fucking graft. Stop skirting around things and half-arsing things. Do it properly and dedicate yourself over a period of time and you'll reap the rewards, he says after procrastinating his run for 3 hours. Some good news to start Thursday morning. We have got the SOAR running assets all approved. The shoot that we did earlier this week, we turned the assets around, the clients approved them, so we are free to set these live tonight. I'm intrigued to see how these are going to do. They're slightly different to my usual content style, a little more arty, if you will. We tried to get a bit more creative than usual because SOAR are a pretty premium brand. We wanted to do something that aligns with what they're all about. It's always a little bit of a conflict I find with myself here because commercially I need all the content to do really well on Instagram because that's basically how I can justify getting paid decent amounts by the brands, etc. But what that means is I'm sometimes a bit hesitant to try new things out and post new types of content because if they start to flop and then a brand comes back and says, well, you can't justify that price because you're only getting lower views, etc. It's always difficult. Obviously, it's important to not box yourself in though because you'll end up getting bored of creating the same thing again and again, just rinse and repeat. So you've got to keep things fresh. So something I'm learning to navigate is just the commercial side of things that make me a little bit hesitant sometimes to try new things. I know what some of these brands are like, you know, they'll cut you down based on your views and that kind of thing. Oh, I really want to go outside on the bike today, but I don't know if I've got it in me to face this dreary, cold, miserable, windy, rainy weather. But then I'll feel guilty if I don't and I just sit on the indoor trainer because when I'm 75 sat in a care home and I can't ride my bike, I'll look back on days like this and think, should have gone out on my bike. This is the problem with being in the UK, man. I need to move out to Mallorca where I can just ride all year round. Me and Jade have been having a bit of a clear out in the flat because we've just collated so much stuff over the years, especially when you're doing this kind of thing. You get sent quite a lot of stuff, if I'm honest, half of which I end up never wearing and it just sort of sits collecting dust in my cupboard. So I'm getting rid of quite a bit of stuff. Look at some of these gems that I got from like long before I even started doing this though. So I used to work in the Adidas factory in Stockport, Per Mill. Ultra Boost 2.0s. The second edition of Ultra Boost came out in 2016. Adidas jeans, the originals. I think these are Adidas jeans Mark 1. These are from 2010. Remember, I've kept hold of these because I went through a massive phase of collecting the Adidas City Series shoes, which is why I have stuff like these as well. I don't even know what model these are. Bermudas, Adidas Trim Stars, they were the bollocks. Here's another one, Adidas Boston Supers, look at them, they are smart. 2014. I remember when people used to queue overnight at the size store and Oi Polloi, etc. in Manchester just to get these kind of shoes. They were so in demand at the time, and then they went away a little bit, and obviously with the Sambas coming back, the Spezials and all these kind of like Adidas City Series type shoes are back in again. Anyway, I need to go and drop some stuff off that I've sold on Vinted, and then I'm going to go and grab a brew and just have a wander around. I need a bit of fresh air. I'm feeling cooped up. I'm just doing niche. Right, it's time for a brew. posted that SOAR video on Instagram, and I noticed that I'd had a comment on another video that I did a while ago from this guy, just a shitty comment really. I wanted to talk a little bit about hate comments and that kind of stuff, because if you've ever put yourself out there on social media to any degree, I would imagine at some point someone will have commented some shit on your post or whatever it is. Me personally now, I think it is part and parcel of doing this social media stuff. You put yourself out there are just naturally going to be people who want to comment shit. One thing that I have realised is that it's not the actual comments that annoy me. Very, very rarely have I been actually irked by a comment. There's been a couple actually that have f***ing irked me big time. But broadly speaking, it's more the act of some little virgin in his mum's basement typing shit out and commenting shit that annoys me more than the actual content of the comment. And then when I do find myself getting annoyed at it, I just have to think to myself, the person behind the screen is a sad little gimp. That is the facts of the matter. They are a sad little human. But whilst we're on the topic though, let me get a couple of my all-time favourite comments up that I've had. Cheers mate, was going to start running until I noticed your complete lack of muscle definition. Now I don't think I will, thanks. As if runners didn't look weird enough with gangly, lanky limbs, you had to go and add the moustache. Welcome to my recording studio. This is where I do my voiceovers for my Instagram videos and any videos where I need to do some kind of voiceover. The way in which I do it is pretty straightforward. I hook the mic up to the laptop. I can't do it at the minute because the mic I normally use is hooked up to the camera. Then I'll just start waffling. The reason I do it under the covers, well, it looks a bit bizarre. It makes the audio a lot better. Otherwise, it can sometimes sound a bit tinny if you do it in a big room, especially like this one with big ceilings and that. Just helps improve the quality that little bit. And then once I've recorded it directly into Premiere Pro, you can apply like an audio preset. For example, I apply the podcast voice one, and again it just makes it sound like it was recorded in a studio, not under your bed covers. What I've learned is that there's loads of little things that you can do to improve the quality of your video. When you start incorporating all these little things that you can do into your workflow, it takes a little bit longer, but the output is usually a lot better.
Always had a way to make
Right, we are back in the office. I am just sorting a video for Instagram. I have had to do an Instagram story that's gone live for the Adidas and End event that I'm doing next week. That should be pretty cool. They're doing like a citywide pursuit running race through Manchester. And then for the rest of the day, I've got a 14-kilometre run to do. I need to pack all my stuff for London because we're going down tomorrow morning with Kay for the Muddy Hell event. And I need to rebook my flights for Honolulu because they have changed the flights, which has fucked everything up for me basically.
Yes.
So they can't cancel it then. So when it comes to colour grading, it is something I am a massive fan of. I love to colour grade my footage. I think it just makes it look that little bit more professional than if you don't. And the way I do it is I will always shoot in a log mode when I can do on whatever camera I'm using. So DJI has DJI log, the Insta360 has its own version of log mode, I can't remember what it's called, and then the ZV-E1 I shoot in S-Log3. Basically what that does is it gives you a super flat profile on the image, grey with no contrast, but it retains as much details as it possibly can do in the shadows, the highlights and the colour, etc. But what it means is you have to go in retrospectively and colour grade it how you want, which adds another thing that you have to do, which adds time to the edits, etc, like I mentioned yesterday. But what I do and what I would probably recommend, once you've learned how to actually colour grade certain colour profiles, so like S-Log3 for the ZV-E1, DJI log for the DJI action camera, you can then create presets for it, which saves you quite a lot of time. So instead of having to edit everything from scratch every single time you upload it into Premiere, you can just drag and drop a preset on. But to be honest, colour grading is a very steep learning curve. It's something that I am still learning and it's taken me a hot minute. Right, it's now 4:15. I've been sat at the desk all day just trying to bank some content. I'm now going to do a shorter run. I'm going to save my long run for the Sunday. I'm going to do 7.5k easy in the Saucony Hurricane 24s. UPS driver was meant to come with my coffee and my nutrition order yesterday. Bailed on me. He's meant to come this morning. Bailed on me. He's meant to come this evening. No sign of the guy. He's a myth. Run is done and dusted, 7 kilometres, easy, plodding around at about 6:30 pace. Heart rate was super low, about 130 BPM as well, which I think is a good sign. I don't know where today's gone, like it has just literally flown by as I've been sat at my desk just banking content, doing admin stuff. A little heavier on the admin than I thought it was going to be, but one of them days, it is what it is. Head out for food, get back early night, and we're up for London tomorrow morning. The UPS guy's still not been, bloke is literally a myth.
So this is the outfit. It is literally about 3 sizes too small for me. It is going to rip once I'm riding the bike, but what can you do?
Most of the world's field has been sensible enough not to ride problems today. Come on, Rapha.
Are you going for the podium?
No, absolutely not, man. Look at me.
It's not very breathable material, this. Yeah. Being ripped again. Can't tell. I hope it does. Yeah, that's too calm. Yeah, I can feel it getting bigger actually. Let's go, Dan! Oh mate, that was fun, man. It was a bit more difficult than I thought it'd be to stay on your feet and that in the mud. It was pitch black round the corners and around them back ends, but I didn't come off, so maybe I didn't go hard enough.